You are watching the Get Your Geek On podcast with Chuck, Robert, and Anthony.
Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to a special weekend edition of the Get Your Geek On podcast. We, as always, are your hosts, Chuck Keywatts.
Robert Dokes.
And as the set collapses around us, like society itself. So what we are doing here is just taking a quick look at some weekly news and then reflecting back on the cultural phenomenon that has been Black Panther, as well as a couple other movies this weekend, as it continues to dominate the box office, predicted to do over 100 million domestic again this week, which very few movies have put up 100 million in the second weekend. So it's a very small list. It's Jurassic World, Star Wars, Age of Ultron, the first Avengers, and then now Black Panther. So joining very select company there. Now, I've seen it for a second time. Robert, you've seen it for a second and a third time. So let's talk about a little bit about how you think it holds up. So now that you've seen it 3 times, does your rating change at all?
Nope. No, it doesn't change. I do have a little point, because I know in our last show that we talked, I kind of badmouthed Martin Freeman because I thought his character was not necessary. I take that back. It was necessary because it helped move the plot forward, because he's the kind of guy that...
He's the bridge to the real world.
He's the bridge to the real world that, as Everett Ross is in the comics, to make sure that we, he's like, hey, dude, you're like, this is Wakanda. You got to get out there and start sharing this stuff.
And he's also like the living proof, like the alien abduction guy that's got like the metal in him. Because keep in mind, they fixed his like completely unfixable back injury, which just leads me to believe it's like, why couldn't Professor X make his way down to Wakanda? Because they were like, his spinal cord is severed and everything else like that. And I'm like, Professor X's injury was way less severe. Like,
well, Bullet, Bullet. We'll figure out how that gets fixed. In a year.
I'm just saying, it's not even like he'd have to pick up a phone. He could literally just like tap into Sherry's head and be like, "Bitch, make me some new legs." Like.
It's like, hey, T'Challa. He doesn't even do that because they're part of the Illuminati together. So it's like,
honestly, let's talk about that for a minute. We've seen what they've done with Black Panther now. We've seen what they've done with Doctor Strange. We've seen what they've done with Bruce Banner and Iron Man. Granted, we don't know what they're going to do with Mr. Fantastic yet. I think the characters that we have now lay a very good basis for an Illuminati movie.
They are. Well, the idea is this. We also have the secret, Marvel has this secret Submariner, Namor the Submariner project hidden around somewhere that nobody has talked about. I don't, because he's also part of that.
The big thing for me is Robert came up with a great comparison that we're going to get into in a moment. But one of the things that we're just talking about now is like the little interactions and the little moments in the movie, like the casino scene, everything with Shuri. Like, I absolutely love it. She's the real character. Like, I'm looking forward to it. We were just talking about this off camera. I think it would be a really, really cool idea that I would actually dig, because keep in mind, I'm the one guy that says if they kill Tony Stark, I'm done with the Marvel movies, because he's my guy. That being said, I could very much see Shuri being a replacement Iron Man. Robert had said something that he saw Riri Williams parallels, and then that just clicked to my mind going like, first of all, I want to see her interact with Bruce Banner and Tony Stark. The idea that she's 16 and smarter than them, it's got to work. Like, I just see the scene of like her taking over the tech and Robert Downey Jr. throwing something quick out, and then like her just showing them up, being like, I'm 16, but don't let her fool you.
I think the idea is what you want to see is interaction with the whole idea of the science bros.
Well, I just feel like there's this cool idea for a cross, like, of him dying and her taking up the mantle, but like improving it with vibranium technology, and like, so there's elements of Black Panther in it, but it's her as Iron Man, like a Wakandan Iron Man.
It's a Wakandan Iron Man, because the way I think that most of they're going to go in the comics is that Shuri does take up the mantle of Black Panther.
They showed the concept art. She had a suit in the movie.
She had a suit in the movie, but I think where they went was like, they don't want to necessarily do that right now, and combat is not her thing.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, they had Nakia, I think is her character.
Yeah.
The Black Panther's love interest. Her whole thing was like, no, I can't stay and be this queen because I have to go out and be this humanitarian and share technology. It's like, yeah, and now they're starting to do that. But keep in mind, they also assigned Shuri at the end of the movie as she's going to head up the technology and science exchange, which automatically puts her in that position. But I just see her like, it's almost like two halves of a whole coming together. Her with the Iron Man technology. And I just feel like it would be cool to base around her Panther gauntlets that she has. Yeah. Like, make that what forms the suit around it. Like, there's a lot that could be done. Put it that way.
That's where I'm looking at when you think about Riri Williams and Ironheart, which a lot of people had issue and problems with.
Is that the doorbell?
No, that's not the door. That's my
technical.
That's my cell phone.
But put it this way: doesn't it make more sense to you to have Shuri and Tony Stark have this mentor-mentee relationship?
Yeah, well, it's a matter of, and the one thing I will mock about Black Panther is this: they did not go into T'Challa's intelligence enough at the beginning of the film, because like, he is just as smart as Shuri And like but he's kind of like one of those old heads is like, I'm a little set in my ways. I like what I want. Because at the beginning of the film, he's like, you see that whole thing is like, well, it's just like, here's your suit. It's like, what's wrong with my design?
Yeah, and what's up with like her giving him the Jaguar? It's like, I'm the Black Panther, not the Black Jaguar. Fix this, all right? Yeah. But one thing I do want to point out there, I kind of find this a little bit of a plot hole. If we can be honest about this movie here, one of the things I love about Black Panther is the Purple Heart, or whatever you choose to call it, whatever it's called from the comics, is supposed to make him immune to all poisons and diseases and stuff like that. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense to me that there's something that he drinks that negates the Purple Heart flower, let alone that he has to have multiple times. That wouldn't play into like Killmonger's thing, well, like, let me get this herb and depower the Black Panther. Like,
yeah, well, and that is a plot hole, and I don't know how they're going to explain that, because you can't have him be OP. I mean, they have to say, okay, he can't have the power of the Panther.
I think it would have been a little bit cooler if Killmonger was just that badass at combat training. Because think about it, he straight up stomped regular powered T'Challa, like he destroyed him. So tell me that wouldn't have been that much more powerful of a scene if he hadn't been stripped of the Purple Heart herb, and like he was defeated just straight up hand, like he didn't have the power of the suit or anything to help him. Don't you think that would have meant more to like the overall story? I'm like, holy crap, he just came in here and whooped our guy. Like, so that I feel like is a missed opportunity.
But yeah, no, like for me, that's not. I mean, it's a plot hole, but it's just something that it's a MacGuffin to move the story forward.
I heard that it's not a plot hole, but I don't know the resolution to it. How did he find Wakanda?
How? Who?
Killmonger.
Killmonger? No, his dad. His dad had like,
so his notes must have left like maps. It makes sense, but it's like it was one of those little things.
It's the idea that the idea of Killmonger, and if you haven't seen the movie,
dude, no, we're not even going to acknowledge that. You're 10 days out from the release of this movie now. If you watch this show, you've seen it.
You've seen it. If you haven't, where have you been? The issue here is that, so he was like, what did I tell you about going through my things? And he's like, and he sees the maps and all this stuff about Wakanda. And I actually didn't realize it until the second showing that it's not, everybody thinks the story, when you hear the child at the beginning, that's not T'Challa talking to his dad.
You're right, that's Killmonger.
That's Killmonger talking.
Well, can I tell you, man, Sterling K. Brown, who played N'Jobu, man, I got to tell you, I want him more and more for Jon Stewart. Anytime I see him in an episode of This Is Us, or like in his whole thing at the very beginning of the movie with like that, there's people that look like us that are beaten down every day, and we have the power to like that whole thing is like I could see the military aspect of Jon Stewart coming through there. Like tell me he wouldn't make a good Jon Stewart. And he's not a living spoiler alert. He dies in the first 20 seconds of the movie, so it's not like he's a character. I don't know. He's got the look and everything, man. He doesn't even have to change.
He doesn't have to change for it, but at the same time, it's like For me, when I've talked about this, like the things where they got Black Panther right, Jon Stewart's another character that you have to make sure that you cast correctly.
You know what? I think Rick Worthy could do a pretty good Jon Stewart. They were, like, obviously, like, Rick Worthy, by the way, we confirmed he'll be back on here for the finale of The Magicians in 4 weeks.
Yeah. By the way, did you know he does the AMC voice?
I didn't know that. Really?
He does the AMC, like, listen to it. You go to the AMC theater voice. I was like listening to it last night, and I'm like, that's Rick Worthy. I'm like, that
friend of the show. That's our intro, baby.
Just listen to it. I think it's him. I'm pretty sure.
We can just ask him.
it's like I'm pretty sure it's him. But I was like, do you do the ACM?
Yeah, silence is gold. Like that whole thing. That whole thing at the movies. Yeah, silence is golden. Like that whole. Oh my God, that is him. Like I know, but that's him. Holy crap. Rick, you're everywhere we go, man.
But, so like I would say, like, yeah, Rick Worthy would make a great Jon Stewart. I love that character. I just like because he's another guy who's very deeply complex and
so deep
because he comes at you for so many levels. And like one of my favorite things that I wish and I want to see it in DC Rebirth. If you've done all these characters and you've brought them back, bring back his wife, Kat Matway. That was the strongest relationship. Like you have. Well,
they actually have a really good one now though between Kyle and Sorinak Natu, Sinestro's daughter.
Yeah, Sinestro's daughter. But like even out that kind of fell apart with.
Yeah, it did. And now they're trying to pair Jessica and Simon together, and it's
like no. I mean, like the idea is this: like you're talking about relationships in Green Lantern.
They're meant to be complicated. Though.
It's like they're meant to be complicated. Like what Jon Stewart and Kat Matway went through. To like, first of all, like, she was, when she got the ring, nobody liked like her, like the Kagurans because of Sinestro did not like Green Lanterns. They hate them. Sharonic Natsu.
Let alone the other Green Lanterns didn't like her because of whose ring she had.
Yeah, it's like nobody likes this, nobody liked the Kagurans.
Didn't she get Sinestro's ring?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so that's why they hated her.
It's like got Sinestro's ring. They got all these things, and Saronic Natu was another
got
character.
Sinestro's ring, and then got the Sinestro core. Like,
it's like all these things. You're like, wait a second, why do we keep doing this?
I like her fault. Like, that's the thing. Saronic Natu took it the other way. Though. Like, even when she switched sides and went to the Sinestro core, and everyone felt so betrayed, it's like she took the Sinestro core to the right direction. She's like, just because we use fear doesn't mean we have to be it. Like, that, and just. I don't know. I just feel like Green Lantern gets into politics in a way, like, because it's interstellar and like the way they get into it is something like Black Panther saw here. But I want to kind of get back to Black Panther for a moment because you came up with a great comparison here. I've also heard people compare Batman and Black Panther, and like I said off camera, I don't think that's even remotely close to a comparison because when Batman's not Batman, he's billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne that just gets to go out and bang whoever he wants and do what he wants. When T'Challa's not Black Panther, he is T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, having to deal with an entire people. So you came up with a very real comparison that I've actually never heard, and it might be my fault. But get into your dynamics here a little bit. The dynamic
is this: if you want to have a DC comparison, I know that a lot of DC fans are getting it's like, well, that's Marvel's Batman. It's not. It's Marvel's Aquaman, and this is he tells a better story than I know Namor the Submariner is that that's their actual generic copy for copy version of Aquaman, but the story in terms of Wakanda is this. Like, is the same thing as Arthur Curry. Here's a guy who is essentially, not necessarily, he's like, he will always be about Wakanda. He's about protecting his kingdom. He's about protecting what he is doing, and it's the reverse. So where you have Black Manta attacking Arthur Curry, you have Claw attacking Black Panther. And it's like we have
comparisons with like the orphan, the islands of people, the orphan, the disadvantaged, this and that. The only thing that's different is whereas T'Challa is loved and embraced by his people, Arthur Curry's always been felt rejected by both. Like he doesn't feel at home in Atlantis, he doesn't feel at home on Earth, and they don't see him as either.
They don't see him as either. And now it's like T'Challa has to find that place. When you look at it, T'Challa has to find this place, much like in Aquaman Rebirth right now, where he's trying to be. They're doing the exact same thing that they're kind of doing with the Wakandans. Is like we're trying to be an outsource. We're trying to be
now it's like he has to worry about being T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, and interacting with the rest of the world, but then also now being Black Panther for the rest of the world too, which I think is a great balance.
It's like in spreading the technology and the knowledge of Wakanda
and the risks that come with that,
and what they're going to be exposed to. And so much like Arthur Curry is dealing with currently right now. And
I will say this much. I'm not necessarily the biggest guy that says certain people need to stay and things like that with movies. I will say this much. Ryan Coogler needs to stay on Black Panther. He needs to be involved in the sequel and this and that because the characters that they've developed in this world cannot suffer from sequel syndrome. They cannot be dragged down and just there because they're there. And I feel like he created this baby, so he's kind of the Jon Favreau of the Black Panther universe. I look at it because he had input. They knew that he was going to be doing Black Panther, so they let him have input in Civil War. So that's another thing people remember. And can I just say real quick off the top of the cuff because it popped into my head? Rewatching Toy Story last night. Do you know Joss Whedon wrote the screenplay for that?
No.
Yeah. Joss Whedon is the screenplay writer of Toy Story. Saw that come up in the credits opening of the movie, lost my mind. I was like, are you kidding me?
That explains a lot.
But you just lost my mind. But what do you think about Ryan Coogler, like what he did here? And not just that, like him and Michael B. Jordan, man. This is their fourth movie together. Fruitvale Station, Creed. They did a short film together, and now this.
Okay. So, like, yeah, I agree with you because I think what the story, you unless you get somebody like Ava DuVernay, who's too busy
Wrinkle in Time is awful.
Is like doing Wrinkle in Time. You're not going to have that level, and even outside of that, it's not going to be the same story. Ryan Coogler was able to hit.
I'll get that, Robert. Go ahead and continue your thought.
Yeah, Ryan Coogler was able to hit on so many levels and points that I think that they need to learn how to understand in the film, and you can't take him out. If anybody who's ever seen the movie Fruitvale Station, he talks about social issues. He talks about so many different things as I wait for Chuck to come back. It's important to have that level of input. It's important to have that level of input in the show, and to have that level of like we were talking about with James Gunn. James Gunn has a level of input into some of the Civil War stuff.
And it's like they kind of just gave him, like, you're running the space department. Like, that's just you. And and he has input on how all those characters are used. Excuse me one moment. One of the things that I really like about what they're doing now is I really, really feel like where Captain America and Iron Man have been our pillars for the Marvel Universe, it just feel like that they're setting up Spider-Man and Black Panther as like our two pillars.
Well, I don't think you can
possibly Doctor Strange, but
possibly Doctor Strange. One, I don't think they can. One, I know it's going to be hard to, as we've talked about some of the behind the scenes stuff in the Disney Marvel saga, because I have to constantly explain that like to people why there's such a disconnect now between television and the movies. I think one of the larger issues that you're going to see going forward is I think they can't get rid of.
Well, let me rephrase the question then. Do you not see it far more likely of Black Panther leading a team of Avengers with Spider-Man on it than you do Doctor Strange leading a team of Avengers?
Yes.
That being said, I feel like Black Panther is the new Captain America of Phase 4. Kind of the anchor, the moral compass, like the super strong guy with the tech and everything else like that. And then Spider-Man's kind of that youthful exuberance, the little bit of Iron Man in him. You know what I mean? Shuri, you're setting up as like your new Bruce Banner, your new techie guy, stuff like that. But I just feel like there's so much that's gone into Homecoming and Black Panther that we've not seen go into other Marvel movies, where it's like they care about every aspect, every side character, everything's got a little bit of a meaning, well-contained stories, great world building, great villains.
Yep.
Think about that. To be able to say those three things about 2 consecutive Marvel movies, really think back to another time that you could say that. Civil War you can't really count because Civil War is really just Avengers 2.5.
I would say that would be Avengers 3, but it's it's like Civil War, the Russo brothers. Like, here's another thing that the Russo brothers are really good. Like, they've managed to, with all the things that they have done in these films, the Russo brothers, they found who they needed for Captain America when the Russo brothers, when they did Winter Soldier. They found who they needed for of the space aspects with James Gunn. Ryan Coogler, I think, is a great aspect to what we saw with Black Panther, like you brought up. I think they need to find a director who can lead whatever's going to happen going forward with Spider-Man. And one thing, they're not killing off their villains, which is good. Vulture's still around.
Vulture's still around, but Killmonger's gone, and that's sad, because Killmonger, I think, he's up there as far as... I would actually rank him as my favorite Marvel villain so far, honestly. Vulture is great to the storyline, and I like at the end where he doesn't... Well, no, that he doesn't reveal Peter. Like, that's a big thing, that he doesn't give him up, and then also, like, saving him for later. But Killmonger, I think, was... I feel like he was a misstep in the fact that I felt like he could have been the Lex Luthor of their universe that kind of assembled his own kind of team.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to have a villainous team up. I think Marvel wants to stay away from that like the plague.
It's just like now that we're moving into this new world that's going to be post-Infinity War, I definitely see Black Panther as one of those pillars that they're building.
I definitely see that. I see that too, but I think it's, you know, do I see Captain America and Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. taking less of a role? Yeah, I don't think you're going to get. He was slated to do.
That's why I feel like they're building up those. Because if you look at them, they're kind of mirror images of a character with the characters. Yeah. Basically, Peter Parker is a young Iron Man from what they're making him here, and especially that he's going to be that protege.
I mean, like, what I would say, Black Panther is one of those aspects. But I would also say we'd have to wait to see what happens with Captain Marvel.
They're even developing the friendship between Black Panther and Bucky to give him like the morals between Falcon and Cap, like
maybe.
And Cap and Bucky, like, I don't know, it's just really interesting to see what they're doing with it. Moving on to one thing I did talk about, saw a new trailer for A Quiet Place, and that is just getting me more and more amped, the John Krasinski silent film. And really excited for that. Some great previews that have come out in the past couple weeks. We're going to get a new Infinity War trailer tomorrow, which will be really exciting to talk about on Friday's show. Also, some guests. We're working on getting Sean Evans from Hot Ones. We've confirmed an interview. We have her. We just have to confirm the date with Kyler Lee. That is our next one, who plays Alex Danvers on Supergirl. And then David Harrowwood is apparently working down the pipeline, who's Martian Manhunter on Supergirl. So we'll be working on those in the meantime. And then we've launched our new YouTube channel as well, where you guys can find edited versions of the show, where we put in things that we're talking about, links, anything to do with any of our guests. And that is, you go to YouTube and just search Nerd Herder Network, and that'll bring that up. And then definitely look forward to comic skin reviews that I'm going to be posting after we finish this show. But one of the things I haven't talked about, for those of you that don't know, I've actually been working on a story that I haven't decided if it's going to become a comic or a full-fledged book yet, but I've been working on it for the better part of about 10 years now, and came up with a crazy cool character that I really like the past couple days, and like I've been doing some research and stuff like that, and there's no character with a power like it or anything like that, which are really cool. So I've come up with the idea right now. The code name that I have for for him is Tollbridge, and he's a guy that can travel through time by using coins. He can go to the date and place where that coin was. Say if you have like a 1975 dime, he can touch that dime and be sucked back to wherever that dime was in 1975. So it's unpredictable at first because you don't know where the coin was and this and that. And over time, he learns how to like manipulate it and get uncirculated coins so he can control where you're going. But there's a lot that we don't with the character, but one aspect I just thought was this idea of him eventually, once he learns to master his power, not only leaving a set of coins for people that can develop a quest, but also the idea of him helping people escape, whether it's good people or villains, whoever you want. If you're on the run from the mob, witness protection, something like that, you pay him a certain amount of money and you pick what year you want to go back to, and he sends you there. So, and then there's this great things of like him when he first discovers his powers, accidents that happen where he doesn't realize that he charges up a coin when he touches. He gives a homeless guy a coin. That dude gets sucked back to like the 60s and stuff. Which happens is he thinks that he grew up as an orphan and stuff like that. But what really happened was when he was 5 years old, he touched some of his father's pocket change and jumped for the first time to like the 60s and just had no idea how to get back when he was 5 years old. So he just grew up in the 60s and they thought he was an orphan. And this is a world where like superpowers exist and stuff like that. So the orphanage where he was found, they tested him and they couldn't figure out what his powers were. So they bound his powers till he was 21 since they couldn't determine what he was. So it's like this whole thing when he turns 21 with his friends that like they have this big drinking party to wait for his powers to manifest to see what he's going to be. And then nothing happens that course at night. So they get ready to go pay to leave and he puts the change up on the bar and disappears. And like that's how he thinks that his powers developed for the first time. But it's really the second time he's done it. But just a lot that I've worked with, and it's just really exciting to me because the idea of like coming up with a character that has a power that hasn't been used is really rare. So you figure we're 80 years into comic book writing, a lot of it's been done. But man, I have been scouting, looking for any type of usage with this, and I'm trying to find a name for the power. Right now, I call it temporal displacement through metallic memory. But like, and then my buddy was coming up, Danny, who helps me write all my stories, is coming up with the idea that eventually maybe he can even learn to just touch any metal and go back to where it was and stuff like that. And there's ways to work around it. But
psychometry.
Psychometrics, yeah. But psychometrics, as defined by Heroes, was just being able to see the history of an object by touching and not being able to actually travel there or live it. But really exciting for me. So right now it's called Project Tollbooth, but working on that, and I'm really excited to see how that fleshes out because Amazon you can self-publish. So yeah,
I'm telling the audience right now, don't steal this story.
Oh, trust me, try it. Like, try it. I have the documents right here. I have documents upon documents upon documents of, like, this world that I've been building since I was 10. Like, J.K. Rowling style, if I showed you my book right now, there's napkins, gas station pieces of paper where I've literally been like, I need a notebook. Like, just give me anything wherever I go and the ideas pop up. But the idea of this character is really, really cool to me because I feel like I can incorporate him into my world, but I just have these great ideas for stories to just tell with him. Of, like, from him as a kid, learning to grow up and stuff like that in a different time. And then eventually, like, it's chaotic. I want it to be very cool, and he's not like a normal time traveler, so they can't track him and they can't help him learn to jump the way that they normally would and stuff like that. So just a lot to do with it.
Let me ask you a question in terms of this, because it's something I've been thinking about, and I had a discussion with some friends last night. Current comic book universes that you would like to see, not DC or Marvel, on big screen.
Powers. As a fan of the TV show and the comic book, there's so much in that world that could be told. It's literally Law and Order SVU with superpowers. And like I just feel like that is something so polar opposite to what we get with superhero movies nowadays. So that's a universe that I could really see. Other than that, it's like I don't really want to say the Valiant universe because as good as they have a couple characters, I'd have to say the Powers. Like for me, that's really it. I mean, obviously, I'm always going to go back to Heroes because that was a comic book, so by default, like I'd go there. But I mean,
what's yours? It was a TV show that became a comic book that became a TV show that became a comic book.
It was it, yeah. Well, people don't realize the comic book actually ran before the TV show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I have to bring it in one day. Like I have 7 of the 9 comic books that were made for that show, but I have the actual screen used one with Hero on it, done up in a comic skin, amazingly enough. But so moving on a little bit, that's really cool with my character. I just wanted to tell you guys about that because that's something I'm going to be publishing on the page shortly. And then also wanted to announce that we are doing our first ever live show. It's happening this Saturday at Northeast Comic-Con in Boxborough, Mass. We're going to be bringing you guys some great interviews with some great artists and wrestler Mick Foley as well, a.k.a. Mankind. So this is going to be a great test run for us.
Jack, a.k.a. Foley is God, a.k.a.
Do Love. I mean, this is a smaller con, but we chose this one as a perfect test, not only because we know the owner, Gary Somers, really well. He's been a great friend to us. But this is a perfect test run for us to work out the tech, work out the cameras, getting guests, everything else like that. Because our goal is this summer to be bringing you guys live shows from the big cons, like Boston Comic Con, New York Comic Con, Rhode Island, Granite State, Mohegan Sun, Terrificon. So this is the start of that. So if everything goes well here, you'll see more of that. So make sure you turn in live next Saturday. We'll be doing probably about a 3 to 4 hour show. So we come to you live multiple points throughout the day, and then we'll pre-record portions portions and air them on next Friday's show as well. So before we start to wrap up here, Robert, any final thoughts on Black Panther now that you've seen it that third time? I feel like with Marvel movies, DC, or any superhero movie in general, the first time you can't really even get a fair viewing because it's like you're so hyped, you're so in the moment of everything that you miss little things. I feel like the second viewing and the third are really where you can form your opinion.
Well, like what I came away from, so Ryan Coogler did this thing on Vanity Fair called Anatomy of a Scene, and he broke down the casino fight scene and the intentionality of some of the things that they did, and I spent more, just due to my occupation after watching the movie a couple of times, I just been looking at it from a technical standpoint. And I saw what he was doing. It's like, spoilers, Nakia always wears green. And you'll see Okoye always wear red for the most part. And so that it was a big thing for her in the scene where she's like, it's armor, put it on. It's like, why is she wearing red? She hasn't been wearing red this entire time. She's been wearing green. And so the idea is for that moment, she's wearing red.
Question for you for our set, by the way, and you guys can chime in below. So the guy that I have that does the 3D printing now, he printed the angel, but he's working on a lantern for me. I want to have a Black Panther item for the set. Would you go Black Panther mask, the Jaguar mask, or Shuri's Panther cannon?
The mask.
The mask is easy. He's got that, but he can do like real detail and put the purple on it and everything.
Yeah, do the mask.
Vote below what you guys think, but I think the mask is what we should do. Our goal is to start someone like a really cool set for you guys that has meaning and stuff like that. We have some items from our guests that are on the way, but heading into the con, anything that you're excited about to finally bring that level to this? We've talked about doing this since the show started.
Nick Foley is probably the biggest thing because it's just like
I think just the idea of opening up this possibility for us of doing cons now. I mean, as for us, who our ultimate goal is to bring you guys San Diego, like. Even just to do it for ourselves, but I think if nothing else, like if we could accomplish Boston this year, I feel like that'd be a great.
That would be great. I just look at it like I don't want to geek out because I'm not a closet pro wrestling fan, but it's like just like
dude, we're all Mick Foley fans.
It's like I'm a mark. I'm a smart.
If you don't think we're gonna have him sign a sock for the set, like
just like I'm a smark, and that's just.
Does that make sense? Like I was thinking about the picture. I think a sock would be cooler to have Mr. Sacco.
Mr. Sacco, but like even outside of that, it's like I don't want to be that guy. I'm like,
and then a great comic show coming from me and Tim Thompson this week. Jamie Reyes is back to doing What's Poppin'. Want to send the best love to him and his wife, who's unfortunately a little bit under the weather. And then Anthony will be back with us as well. Anthony just typically takes the weekends off because he got a great new job and is doing some great things there. But he will be with us next Saturday. So unfortunately, we will not be bringing you a show next Friday. So we will be bringing you our live show next Saturday. We will catch you up on the CW shows that are going to be returning. And then we will also be giving you guys some live interviews with some great artists, cosplayers, and guests from the con. So I think that's going to wrap things up for this week's show. Definitely check out our new YouTube page for edited versions of our videos, including the Dan Cummins and Rick Worthy interviews, which will be up by the time you guys are finishing with the show. So I think that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode. Anything from you, Robert?
Nope, that's
Go
it.
see Black Panther if you haven't already. See it again. Support this movie any way you can. Really hyped for Pacific Rim is my next big blockbuster. Then Quiet Place and Infinity War.
Pacific Rim, until somebody tells me all that, it's like Cloverfield for me.
I want you guys to actually come up with some celebrity guests, since we have this IMDb profile. Sound off in the comments of who you guys would like to see us on the show, or if there's specific TV shows or anything like that you'd like us to work on guests from. I am going to try to get some Parks and Rec people if I can. It's just hard because some of them have really blown up. It's just like, when you think of the celebrities, think about this. We can't really get A-listers. We're not going to get Chris Pratt on this show. You know what I mean? So television shows are really the best bet for us and stuff like that. We've lucked out with the athletes and stuff like that, comedians and stuff like that. So when you think about that, be realistic with who you guys think, and we'll try to get whoever we can for you guys. Obviously, the CW shows are a big part of us, so I'm reaching out to some of the Black Lightning cast as well. See what we can do there. But sound off with who you guys would like to see. We can get the contact information of any celebrity that's on IMDb, so it's worth a shot. The worst thing they can do is say no. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to cut off, and then I'm going to be doing a Comic Skin review. Comic Skin sent us their new 2.0 cases and clear backing boards, which are really, really cool. Well, I wanted to set the camera up a little bit better, so he's going to actually use this for his site. So
no problem.
That's going to wrap things up for this week's edition of the Get Your Geek On podcast. Make sure you check us out on the Nerd Herder Facebook page, on our new YouTube page, and be sure to check us out live at Northeast Comic Con next Saturday, March 3rd, 2018 in Boxborough, Massachusetts. For the Get Your Geek On podcast, I've been Chuck Keywots.
Robert Dokes.
Have yourselves a week.